Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamunatira Vanachari. Yamunatira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravajikacharya Ashtotar the Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So, okay. On this 21st day of January 2025 in San Diego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 18, text 28, on page 678. Ayukta prakritaha stabdha shato naiskritiko alasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Okay. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Go ahead. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Go ahead. Ami goes next. Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Anyone else? Asha, you want to try? Ayukta prakrita stabdha shato naiskritiko lasaha vishadi dirga sutri cha karta tamasa uchyate. Okay, before I read the word by words, back in 1984 or so, I recorded the whole Bhagavad Gita in two forms. One was with all the purports and everything, and one was just the verses and the translation, verse and translation. I used to sell them a long time ago. Now I just give them away. So if you just write to me, I can send you the file, and then you can listen, and you can learn how to pronounce these slokas. Well, you can get an iPad like I have in a big type. Anyway, if you want a recording of the Bhagavad Gita, just write to me at Dravida108@gmail. Hare Krishna. Word by words, I'll say. Just you read silently. Ayukta, not referring to the scriptural injunctions. Prakritaha, materialistic. Stabdaha, obstinate. Shataha, deceitful. Naiskritika, expert in insulting others. Alasaha, lazy. Vishadi, morose. Dirga sutri, procrastinating. Cha, also karta, worker. Tamasaha, in the mode of ignorance, uchate is said to be. Translation. The worker who was always engaged in work against the injunctions of the scripture, who was materialistic, obstinate, cheating, and expert in insulting others, and who was lazy, always morose and procrastinating, is said to be a worker in the mode of ignorance. Purport. In the scriptural injunctions, we find what sort of work should be performed and what sort of work should not be performed. Those who do not care for those injunctions engage in work not to be done, and such persons are generally materialistic. They work according to the modes of nature, not according to the injunctions of the scripture. Such workers are not very gentle, and generally they are always cunning and expert in insulting others. They're very lazy. Even though they have some duty, they do not do it properly, and they put it aside to be done later on. Therefore, they appear to be morose. They procrastinate. Anything which can be done in an hour, they drag on for years. Such workers are situated in the mode of ignorance. Om jnana timarandasya jnanandana shalakaya chakshu unmilitam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of the Sri Parampara, the disciplic succession or disciplic succession. So this is the last chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, and Krishna is explaining the perfection of renunciation. Now, we have to know where renunciation fits in and why it's important in our attempts to get self-realization and God-realization. The understanding from the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam and all the books of knowledge, wisdom that Srila Prabhupada translated, is that we are, first of all, there's a very hopeful thing to understand the verse. You'll never die. No one ever dies. That's one of the main verses. Najayate mriyate va kadachan nayam budva bhavita vanabuya arjo nitya shashvato yam purano nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Now, in this verse, it's important to remember they're on a battlefield, and they're facing huge army on the other side. They have a huge army behind them. Krishna and Krishna and Arjuna are in a chariot between the two armies. That's the scene. You would think, well, that's the last place where we're going to have a spiritual discourse, right? But no, this is right there is where Krishna imparts this wonderful knowledge. So Arjuna is hesitating to fight. It's important to realize how dramatic and how serious that is, because the whole Mahabharata, the whole history that culminates in this, is really a fight between good and evil, dharma and adharma, religion and irreligion. And Krishna, as he says in the 4th chapter, one of the main reasons why he comes personally, or even sends his emissaries to this earth, is to revive dharma. When dharma becomes confused and people are not following, and there's all kinds of adharma, pseudo-religions that are being followed, then Krishna is concerned, and he comes not so frequently, once every 8 billion years or so, to Earth. And but otherwise he sends his emissaries, or he has his books, there's always some. And why is he concerned? Well, think of it this way, that one of the things that Krishna says in the beginning of chapter 14 is that he's the father of every living entity, not just human beings, but wherever you see consciousness, wherever you see life, even in plants and insects and fish and everything, what to speak of human beings. Then there's a soul there. This is the first teaching of Bhagavad Gita. It's basic to understand that we are an irreducible entity that is conscious, and we're very minute. I remember when I first heard this, it says that there's one verse, I forget the Sanskrit, it says that the size of the soul is 1/10,000th part of the tip of the hair. I immediately said, well, what kind of hair? Because I knew that blonde hair is much thinner than black hair. I never got an answer to that, and I didn't worry about it. But the point is, it's very, very, very small. But we're irreducible. We never die, and we never created. We never created. We're as eternal as Krishna is. But because we're so small, we have a tendency to become fascinated with the material energy. The way it's understood is that we were there with Krishna in the spiritual world for who knows how long. But somehow or other, because of our minuteness and because we have free will, we turned our back on Krishna. We wanted to try to imitate him, to become the enjoyer and the controller and the master and like that. That's called the false ego, the false sense of self. So and Krishna, well, what is he going to do? The spiritual world is completely harmonious. Everyone there and everything is completely conscious. Even what we would call inanimate things like the rivers and the rocks, you know, they're all conscious in their own way, and they're all loving Krishna and doing their own service. Like the river Yamuna, it's personified by Kalindi, you know. And so many pastimes take place there. It's very important for Krishna's pastimes. And what to speak of the cows? The cows are, you know, have a central place. So that cow may be, that soul may be in the body of a cow, the spiritual body of a cow, but he's fully conscious. He may not be able to talk, you know, like him, but he can express himself, and there's a wonderful relation between Krishna and the cows. So, but because we're minute particles of spirit, Krishna's the Supreme Spirit, we have his qualities in minute degree. And one of those qualities is free will. And because the whole thing is based on love. That's the ultimate goal in bhakti, is prema. There's a little phrase, prema pumarto mahan. Mahan means the great, and arta means goal, and puma means, is short for person, means a person. The arta is the goal. The supreme goal for every living being, and human beings, because we're the only ones who can have the intelligence to go for it, is pure love for Krishna. Now, how is it supposed to be manifested? The Prabhupada taught, and it's there in the Shastra too, that the closest example we have for that in this world, material world, is a mother's love for a child. Think a newborn child or a few months old, you know. So what is the mother's focus? From the moment she wakes up to the moment she takes rest, she says, is the child okay? Is he safe? Is he warm enough? Is he well fed? Is he, right? She's concerned. We had parents like that, hopefully. And selflessly. So if there's a child lying in the bed and he opens his eyes, he looks at the mother and he smiles, no teeth yet, you know, so he's smiling. The mother's day is made, isn't it? Oh, she's not looking for anything else. So the point is that the mother's pleasure is nourished by the pleasure of the child. If the child is healthy and happy and warm enough and everything, then so that's selfless. But how long can it last? The child grows up, you know, the kid becomes, you know, eventually he grows up and gets a job, moves away, you know. You're lucky if you get a phone call once a week, you know. So in the material world, these relationships, which are perfected in the spiritual world, are very fragile. They're bound by time. They're certainly bound by time because eventually the body goes, and then you get another body in your next life, depending on your work. And so those last relationships, they're all forgotten, you know. So the perfection of human life is to revive that original love for Krishna, and it's exactly characterized by that. Is that you're taking your pleasure solely and wholly in giving pleasure to Krishna through various kinds of services in various kinds of relationships. And we all have one favorite relationship. We may be a friend of Krishna. In the present day, we may have a female body or whatever, but we may be a friend who cavorts with Krishna. Or we may be a gopi, or because one of the elder gopis who has a parental relation with Krishna. We can't be Mother Yashoda, you know, when we read about but we can follow in the footsteps. We can have that same mood. So the Shastra, Krishna is telling, this is kind of technical information he's giving. Different kinds of work, different kinds of renunciation, different kinds of worker, as we have here, in the different modes of nature. Now, understanding those modes, we can, I think, when you describe it, you can say, yeah, that I can understand that. We probably had maybe periods when we were pretty much in the mode of ignorance. We didn't want to do anything. Maybe some trauma happened in our life and we were depressed. We couldn't get up. We weren't interested in anything. That's the mode of ignorance. If we were lucky, you know, we're brought out of that by a friend or a psychiatrist or whatever it may be. And then we wanted to do something. We wanted to succeed. That's a mode of passion, you know. And then the mode of goodness is much more thoughtful. You're thinking about ultimate questions. You're philosophical, and you're not simply interested in immediate sense gratification. So now he's talking about, now the advantage is, because this is going to culminate in the final, almost the last two instructions of Krishna, which summarize the whole Gita. The whole thing is the essence of it is text 65 and 66, which maybe I'll give you. We're not going to get there tonight. But all of this preliminary knowledge, how are things being done? Because whatever we do with our senses and our mind, this is going to determine our destiny. This is what reincarnation is all about. In the beginning of chapter 15, the very wonderful description of how transmigration happens. And it's really kind of intuitive when you think about it. The basic principle is that we have two bodies. We have the gross body, which we call the body, which we see in the mirror. But we also have a subtle body of mind. Who doesn't have a mind? Can anyone volunteer? Of course we have a mind. But you can't see it, but you can experience. Mind, and then intelligence, the discriminating factor, making judgments. And finally, the sense of self, which is called the ego. So mind, intelligence, and ego. They don't die when the gross body dies. This body is compared by Krishna to a suit of clothes. We have our, and probably it's, yes, there's the shirt and the jacket. The shirt is the subtle body. The jacket is the external body. So the jacket eventually wears out. Vasang, he has a verse, Vasangsi jiyanana yata vihaya. He said, just as over time, eventually whatever clothes you have wear out, and then you discard them. You say you give them to the what do they call it? Salvation Army, maybe some. I'm telling you, sometimes I think my walk, I have so many adventures on my walk, So it's cold, it's been so cold. And here's this poor guy walking around with no shoes. And I had an extra pair of shoes at home. I said, should I run and get them, because I'll come back, it'll be gone or something. I didn't do that. But it's just simple clothes and to be outside and to have to try to negotiate, to find a place where you can sleep. What to speak of keeping warm, it's such a tragic situation. So we want to try to avoid that. I think I don't think anyone's here going to be homeless soon. But the point is that it's a temporary situation. I think, soberly we can understand we're all going to leave this body eventually. That's called death. But the question is, what's going to happen after that? It's totally illusory to think that, well, that's the end of it. That's all. We go around once in life and you grab all the gusto you can get. There used to be a beer commercial like that when I was a kid, You only go around once, right? Isn't there a T-shirt? Why YOLO? You only live once? Isn't it? What does that mean? You only live once, so let's go to party, right? I mean, isn't that the idea? No, you don't only live once. You live many, many times. And it's Krishna's mercy, as he explains in the Bhagavad Gita, that we forget all these previous lives we've had, which included our diseases and deaths and violence, who knows what it was. That's all forgotten, so we can live in this life. So the point is that we want to choose those kind of modes, the modes that is most conducive to us developing our original consciousness, reviving our original Krishna consciousness, which is really a platform of, coming to the point of always being blissful. Is there anything like that in the material world? No. We wish there was, and we think, well, if I just take this drug enough, I'll be happy. It doesn't work like that. We know that, right? Hopefully not from personal experience, but it's obvious. So how can we get to that point? We have within our heart, Krishna is there. He's there as a super soul. And we can even see him in his original form if we become pure enough. And if we learn how, and we experience, and this is what happens in Krishna consciousness when you practice, that it really is, there's a certain kind of pleasure that you haven't had before by giving Krishna pleasure. And the first way it happens is just chant his name. Just, chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. And of course the singing and the dancing, and it goes like, on like that. Then you get drawn up into it, and there's a certain happiness that comes to that. And when we read the books like Chaitanya Charitamrita of the pioneer of this chanting, his name Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, an incarnation of Krishna, who his main preaching was just go out and chant usually with his associates, And he would go for hours and hours and hours. And meanwhile, he was experiencing such incredible ecstasy. And that was, people were also experiencing that by taking part in being drawn into it. And so that's the dharma of the age. There's a wonderful verse, we used to sing this on the street, believe it or not. How's it go? Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Nama eva kevalam, Kalo nasteva, 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 gatadanyata. And then we go on a couple of times. And then we chant Hare Krishna again. So what it means is, I put it into a little poem. It says, if you want to achieve the supreme goal of life, which don't forget is pure love for God. If you want to achieve the supreme goal of life in this age, when dissension and chaos abound, there is no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way that can ever be found but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name, but to chant Krishna's name with a stout-hearted vow, and to pray, O Lord Krishna, O friend of the poor, let my head ever unto your lotus feet bow. So that's a Shastric verse. Lord Chaitanya, he said his spiritual master taught him that verse, Ishvara Puri. So he adopted that and he gave that to us. So eventually it all leads up to that. But these verses are describing, the verse we read is a karta. Karta means a doer, a worker. And the worker who's in the mode of ignorance has these qualities. He works against the scriptural injunctions of probably not even being aware of it, that he or she is doing that. You're unaware, but they're against it. Materialistic means that your motive in everything is that you're somehow self-gain. Who do we know like that? Don't give me any names, but he's a very famous person. Anyway. Obstinate. Even though there's, you're obviously wrong, you still don't give, keep it. Probably know people like this. Cheating, expert in insulting others, lazy, always morose and procrastinating. Such a person is the mode of ignorance. So we want to try to avoid that mode. That's why, there's so many instructions, and the key is a good association. If you're associating with someone who you respect and like, and they're in the mode of goodness, and exhibiting that, then you'll tend to try to be like that. So association is very key. All right, let's go on. Now he's going to tell, okay, we're going to different kinds of understanding and determination. Buddhir bedam driteschaiva gunatas trivadam shinu pochamanam asheshena pritakvena dhananjaya. O winner of wealth, now please listen as I tell you in detail of the different kinds of understanding and determination according to the three modes of material nature. Purport. Now, after explaining knowledge, the object of knowledge, and the knower in three different divisions, and according to the modes of material nature, the Lord is explaining the intelligence and determination of the worker in the same way. All right. Pravrittim cha navrittim cha kaya karye bhaya bandham moksham cha yaveti buddhi sa Pṛthā sattviki. O son of Pṛthā, that understanding by which one knows what ought to be done and what ought not to be done, what is to be feared and what is not to be feared, what is binding and what is liberating, is in the mode of goodness. Purport. Performing actions in terms of the directions of the scriptures is called pravritti, or executing actions that deserve to be performed, and actions which are not so directed are not to be performed. One who does not know the scriptural and directions becomes entangled in the actions and reactions of work. Understanding which discriminates by intelligence is situated in the mode of goodness. Now I remember, I used to smoke when I was a kid, smoke cigarettes. Everyone was doing it, everyone in the movies was doing it, And so that was the great example, And there was no understanding, at least publicly, that this is very bad for your health. So anyway, I started smoking. I was 15. I remember I was out in the park and I was getting used to it, coughing and everything. I got to get used to this, Everyone, my friends were all smoking, so I never got into that heavy smoking. but I was smoking. And then a few years later, I forget what year, it was probably early 60s. There were all of these movements on, hey, cigarette is very, very bad, our kids are smoking, it's not good. So they finally got the Congress to make a law that you have to have that little notice on there. Warning, cigarette smoking can be hazardous to your health, or is hazardous to your health. So, what's the point? Well, of course, the cigarette makers didn't want to put it on there, you know, because that'll decrease sales. Their whole business, you know, they're workers in the mode of passion or ignorance for sure. But the idea is that you'll have knowledge. At least if you read that, you'll have knowledge, and maybe it'll sink in and say, oh, I don't want to do this, you know, or at least you'll minimize it or whatever, you know. So through knowledge, we can change our behavior radically. If we understand, oh, you know, that this is like every day. Because I'm old, you know how it is when the internet, when they find out that you're old, or they find out what you like to buy, then they're going to send you ads that way, you know. So I get this WebMD. It's a free thing. You know. Ways in which you can, you know, not get dementia as you get older. You know, then how old I am. And so I read them because it's good to know those things. You know, my tactic now is standing on my head once a day. And keeping it, because a lot of it is the circulation in the brain. I don't actually stand on my head. There's a device where the weight is supported by your shoulders. You see that? It's very good. Right next to a door, you know, a door, a wall, or something. But anyway, so the whole point is that, okay, if this person has this knowledge, then it'll change their behavior. Because they'll understand something that they didn't understand before. Oh, I understand if I eat this, if I do this, then this will be detrimental to my health. And if they do this that way, then I'll be good for my health. So by your knowledge, this can be a very important way that you change your behavior. You change what you do. So that's the idea. And it's there on material spheres also. Why is there, you know, such a emphasis, you know, and any society that's you know, at all sane will try to educate the children, so that when you get up, they'll be good citizens, and it'll, you know, it'll be good for them. It'll be good for everyone. So knowledge is so important, and that's why human life is so important, because we can actually learn about the truth. The cats and dogs, they can't understand that they're not really cats and dogs. They're spirit souls, you know. So they should chant Hare Krishna. No. They're completely controlled by their, you know, whatever brain they have. And so much is, where is there something to eat? Where is there safety? Where is the mate? And, you know, after getting exhausted, finding all those things, sleeping, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. So these are basic principles. If you have a body, you have to do those things. But that can't be the focus of your whole life. That's why this higher understanding, what is the ultimate goal in life? Who am I? Why is there so much suffering? Why do I have to suffer in this world? That's a basic principle. And the reason why we suffer in this world, because of the body, because we're imprisoned in this body, if you think about it. So this is one of the points of knowledge that Krishna speaks of at the beginning of the 13th chapter. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha Doshano Darshanam. Seeing the difficulties, the miseries that come with birth, old age, disease, and death. And, you know, it's all around us, and we also are going to face that. We have faced it at birth because we forgot that. Otherwise, how could we live? It'd be PTSD to the nth degree, right? That's one of Krishna's mercies. He says, as a super soul, I bring knowledge, you know, and remembrance, and also forgetfulness, you know. So, Krishna is now going to describe the determination, right? Determination is such an, is that determination? Understanding first, understanding. So this understanding is first he gives a mode of goodness. Understanding what one should do, and what one ought to be done, and what ought not to be done. Well, on what criteria is he speaking? I should do this for what? If you want to make money and, you know, exploit the world and enjoy, then this isn't then mode of goodness is not for you. Better go for the mode of passion. You see. But then you're going to face you know, you're going to face old age, disease, and death, and there's no hope of getting out of it, you know, you haven't cultivated any spiritual knowledge. So it can be very depressing. But if you cultivate a spiritual understanding, and on the basis of that understanding, you do what ought to be done for your spiritual advancement, meaning getting closer and closer to not coming back again. We have a wonderful little book. I highly recommend it. I had something to do with that production of that book back in the 70s. It's called Coming Back. Coming Back is a reincarnation, you know. And there's all kinds of empirical evidence for that. I don't know if you've seen the announcement. The U.S. military has now come to the conclusion that there's life after death. What? In other words, that consciousness goes on, because there's evidence of it. There was this professor, Ian Stevenson, who back in the 70s or even the 60s, he was a psychiatrist or taught psychology or something in a university, and he heard about these instances, which if you hang out in India especially, for some reason they're more in India, but not only in India. Little kids, huh? I'm sorry? Sri Lanka? You're talking about instances of... Oh, in the book, you read the book. Okay. So it's like so many instances that suggest, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so he went there. But there was several cases, and there was a wonderful article written by Jayawada Swami, he wasn't a Swami at the time, in the BTG, about this little girl in India, who, and she's, as soon as she could talk, she said, "You're not my real mother." What? And she said, "Yes, my real mother is over in this other little village, which is only like a few miles away, you know." And then her name was like that, and my name was like this. And I said, "Oh, really? Well, you know." So I don't know so the parents were kind of upset. You know, what is this? But he was investigating, and he found out about it, and he checked out all the things, and it checked out. There was really a village of that name. There was a lady who died, you know, like that. And he found dozens of cases like that, and he compiled them into this book of evidence. It happens mostly in India, yeah. But so then the question, well, yeah, but maybe the parents told them that, you know. So he checked and made sure that these are cases that are they're airtight. So finally, you know, the Air Force. Now why would the military get involved? They're trying to, I swear, I think the article was in the dandavats.com or so. They want to utilize this idea that you can survive the body, you know, and leave the body and go and spy on the Russians or something, and come back into your body and then write down what you read. I swear. Why else would they want it? But the point is that there is empirical evidence for it, and it confirms, you know, as if it needed it, Krishna's teaching in here. So that basic principle, if you really understand it and you believe it, it should change your whole course of life. Because you realize, oh, what I do is not just going to be, you know, for the next 10, 15, 20, 40, 50 years, and then it'll be all over, you know. No, whatever I'm doing now can be changing my destiny for eternity. So therefore, it becomes very, very important what you do, what you see, what you hear, what you speak, all of these things. And Krishna consciousness is a systematic process that Lord Chaitanya taught. Rupa Goswami put it very systematically in what is called the Nectar of Devotion, translated from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, as the process of devotional service, what the results are, the examples of the different rasas. It's really a very wonderful book. And you realize that we have a capacity. We all have the capacity, you know, as long as you can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. It's true. You have to have a tongue and an ear and a mind. But it's transformative, and it shows the power of God. You know, through the sound, we're actually associating with Krishna. And the more that we hear and we chant purely and hear, the more that effect and quicker that effect will be. And it works for everybody. So these understandings of the different modes and how can they affect are very important, so that we learn to guard against the mode of passion and ignorance and try to stay with the mode of goodness. All right, understanding. Let's go with the mode of passion. Yaya dharmam adharmam cha karyam cha karyam eva cha ayatavat prajanati buddhi sa Pṛthā rajasi. O son of Pṛthā, that understanding which cannot distinguish between religion and irreligion, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, is in the mode of passion. Now let's see, that sounds like the mode of ignorance. Was understanding which one knows what ought to be done and what not to be done. Oh, that's the mode of goodness. Okay, now the mode of passion. But now if you don't understand what should be done and what not should be done, then you're kind of adrift, you know, and that's the mode of passion. No purport. Adharmam dharmam itiya manyate tamasavata sarvartan vipaditangscha buddhi sa Pṛthā tamasi. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness, and strives always in the wrong direction, O Pṛthā, is in the mode of ignorance. Purport. Intelligence in the mode of ignorance is always working in the opposite of the way it should. It accepts religions which are not actually religions and rejects actual religion. Men in ignorance understand a great soul to be a common man, and accept the common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth, and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of ignorance. It sounds like the disinformation and misinformation that we just had so much of. You know, you can see democracy is not the best form of government. But even if it's supposed to work and nicely, it depends on people being properly informed of what the truth and the untruth is. If there's all lies everywhere you look, then you're helpless. That's why, Prabhupada, revolutionarily, he came. He wasn't out to exploit. Otherwise he would have never taken the trip. At 69, to get on a boat rather than a plane with no money, no friends on the other side, two heart attacks. He had a free passage going back. And so he came to New York, and at first didn't really make much headway, And so he would go to the office of the shipping line that he got a free he had a free pass back, So he kept coming. Finally, they asked him, Swamiji, you keep coming, but you never get a reservation to get on the boat, Because Prabhupada came on the order of his spiritual master. He was worshiping that, and he had it for years and years. And he was trying to do it in India, which really wasn't the program, and that kept failing. So finally, at age 69, with health not that great, he decided to go for it, to completely rely on Krishna. And it was touch and go. They had the two heart attacks on the boat. Then later on, after about a year in America, things were starting to pick up. He had the place in 26th Avenue, and then he started a center in San Francisco, right in the middle of the Summer of Love, 1967. If you read history, that was all the hippies were streaming in and everything. And so that was very successful. He went back to New York and it was going like anything. Boom! Then another heart attack. And it looked like the end, and he recuperated. He went back to India. Devotees thought, oh, he's never going to come back, So they kept writing to him, please come back, we need you, So he did come back, and then everything started to grow and explode like that. In 12 years, all over the world. So he became, he certainly distinguishes, what ought to be done and what not ought to be done, and he always, followed the scripture. The whole point of this, to have the books like this, is that you accept them as guides for what to do and what not to do. That comes up at the end of the 16th chapter. And you have the example of the Acharya, the spiritual master, who's living it, and is a living example of the benefits and the wonderful joy and enthusiasm for life that you can get. And so then you decide to become serious and practice the principles. So I don't know if you are interested in this little aspect, but over the years, the production of the books was so important, essential to Prabhupada's preaching. But he didn't have anyone who knew Sanskrit, and he didn't. He had an English editor. Krishna sent him. He was walking on the street in New York, and there was a Hayagriva, Howard Wheeler, who wasn't a full professor, but he was an instructor in English in the college, And he'd just come back from India. He went to India to get to find a guru with Keith Kirtananda. And you know the boat they took? Jaladuta. They went back on the same boat that Prabhupada came on. Yes. But they couldn't find anyone there, so they came back. So they're living in the Lower East Side of New York, which was another hotspot for hippies. I lived there for years too. And so he sees this Indian gentleman walking on the street of New York. And so he said, "Well, this is interesting." So he asked, "Are you from India?" So Prabhupada said, "Yes." "Are you?" He said, "No, I'm just a professor in English." So Prabhupada saw this as Krishna sending someone to help him with his books, which he did. So there's all kinds of things like that happen. So anyway, it was hard to edit. Prabhupada, they got a dictaphone, which would sped it up a lot. Otherwise, Prabhupada was typing everything out, 2 fingers, like this. You can imagine how long it would take. So, but if you could just dictate it, that was faster, provided that you had someone who could accurately transcribe. But Prabhupada was quoting all kinds of Sanskrit verses, they just skipped over those, so it was difficult to produce these books. And just a little note, which you won't know, no one else will, if you are in a Bhagavad Gita class, they know about this. But verse 32 and 33, right? One describes understanding. No. What is it? Here it is. Understanding which considers religion to be irreligion and religion to be irreligion. Okay, that's the mode of ignorance. So that's 32. So 31 and 32, somehow or other, there's no purport to 31, but he took the purport to 32, which is like 5 lines, and he appended it to 31. Oh, you have it there? She has an old Gita. So that was caught, by Jayawada Maharaj, and it was fixed. But otherwise, it could be very confusing, Why don't you get one of the other Gitas? Yes, they sell the old one there. Anyway, it's the whole thing. I won't get into that. Anyway, it was fixed years ago, and there's still some fixes that need to be done. All right, so that was understanding in the mode of ignorance. Now we're going to determination. Did we do that one yet? No. Drityaya dhariyate manak pranendriya kriyaha yogena vyabhicharinya driti sa Pṛthā sattviki. O son of Pṛthā, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and which thus controls the activities of the mind, life, and senses, is determination in the mode of goodness. Purport. Yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul. One who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life, and sensory activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word avyabhicharinya is very significant, for it indicates that persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness are never deviated by any other activity. So, as in any project, or suppose you want to, I give this example, want to become an Olympic pole vaulter, or you want to learn to play an instrument, which I did, then you have to be serious about it and determined to get over the part where there's so many obstacles and you can't do it and all this stuff. And if you have a teacher, then that determination to follow the instructions of the teacher, because that person is experienced and so forth. So that's determination in the mode of goodness, you see. And especially it's important in spiritual life because it's a very radical change. You're trying to go 180 degrees. Instead of you being normal conditioned soul, that I'm the center, whenever, whatever is pleasing to me, I'm going to work for that. And that's my determination. You can be very determined to do that. The demons are determined. We had this big demon named Hiranyakashipu. They appear in the Bhagavatam. It's very instructive. The names are very significant. Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu means a soft bedding. So Prabhupada, yes, this is what the demons, they're into more and more wealth and the soft bedding, and the bed companion. I'm going to go more into that. So he was a great demon, and he had a very saintly son. There's a whole story about it. We had just finished his 7th canto, where it describes in detail. And the saintly son was a devotee of Krishna from birth, because while he was in the womb, this great devotee named Narada Muni was preaching to his mother. And she was hearing it, but it was not so well, because she was running, when is my husband coming back, and everything. But Prahlad in the womb heard it perfectly, and he came out as a great devotee. But his father didn't know that. He thought, oh, he's just another, I'm going to train him up to be the next Hiranyakashipu. So he sent him to school, and he came back, and like a very affectionate father, put him on his knee, smelled his head, which is a sign of affection. Oh, Prahlad, what's the best thing you learned today? Hoping that he would, some lesson in kind of Machiavellian politics, how to divide and rule, which is what the demons. But no, he said, he didn't call him father, he called him, best of the demons. Tat sadhu manye sudabha yadehinam sada samudvignadiyam asadgahat. Hit fatmapatam griyamandakupam vanam gato yad hadamashriyeta. And those last two words hit, Hiranyakashipu like a whip. Because Hari is a name for Krishna, you see. And Ashriyeta means to take shelter. But Hiranyakashipu, he already hated God because he had already killed his brother, Hiranyaksha. He has also gold in his name. I mean, always looking for gold. So anyway, what that verse means is, and this is talking about truth to power. Expecting truth to power can be very dangerous sometimes. So here's this huge demon who conquered the whole universe, actually. And here's his delicate little son. But he wasn't afraid. He was so much absorbed in remembering and thinking of God and thinking of Krishna that he felt completely protected. So he said, the best thing I learned, best of the demons. And then the question is, best for whom? For living entities, dehina, who are always disturbed in one way or another, because they've taken shelter and they're focused completely on the impermanent life, the impermanent body. It's like being in a boat out here, and suddenly it springs a leak. Oh my God, what are we going to do? Okay, we got these life preservers. You go in life preservers and you're floating. You got your cell phone. Somehow you're able to call. So they're on the way. But the life preservers are leaking also. In real. So this is what it means to try to succeed in the material world. No one succeeds. Eventually, it all collapses. You lose everything. Krishna says, "Mrityu sarva harastaham." As death, I take everything away from anyone, from everyone. So that's why it's always disturbed. So what should you do? Give it up. Give up this materialistic life. And what to do? Go to the forest. And it's understood to go to Vrindavan and take shelter of Krishna. So his father said, where the heck did he learn this? So he looked at his, the teachers. Now he's huge. He's conquered the whole universe. And he's got these two teachers. And he looked at them. He said, we didn't teach him that. We didn't know where he got that. So that it's a wonderful story. And eventually, Hiranyakashipu just gets so disgusted. He gives it to his henchmen. These evil henchmen. They try to kill Prahlad. He's just this little boy, but he's so protected because he's meditating on Krishna. Didn't even feel any pain. They're hitting with the pitchforks, and they can't. They get the elephants, try to crush him. Threw him into a big pot of boiling oil. That should do it. No, So he wasn't feeling anything, So that really scared his father, because that's a lot of strength, even defense, Anyways, so eventually Nrsingadev comes, half man, half lion, and rips him apart. Hare Krishna. All right, so time for a little poem, a little relief. Understanding which, so we'll be on 33? 34. All right, we'll do 34 tomorrow. But, let's see. I did that one. Okay. So, for determination, because this is determination now. Very important. So the determination, you have to know a little bit of culture. There's this bird in India named the Chatika bird. And he just likes to drink water from the cloud. He doesn't want to get any water that fell to the ground. It's too contaminated. So he's always waiting for the cloud to give the water, you know. But that means that, you know, also thunder and lightning may come. So the Chatika bird is an example of great determination. It's like this. This is a verse by Rupa Goswami. I'll give the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit is always beautiful. Vidachaya mahidandam dina bando dayangva gatadihina bhavatta kachad anyamamasti nipatatashatakoti nirmalang vandavambas tadapakilapayodak stuyate chatakena. The Chatika subsists on rain it catches in midair. So it's always praying to the cloud to send its fare. Yet though that cloud may send a thunderbolt instead of rain, that bird continues praying fervently despite the pain. Just like the Chatika, I fix my mind upon one goal, and that is you, O Lord, most kind to every fallen soul. So whether it is a punishment you give or mercy sweet, I'll always pray to you for service to your lotus feet. So that's the determination. Don't give up. Keep persevering, and Krishna will eventually shower us with all perfection. All right, let's adjourn. Those who are interested, we're going to have Artik in a few minutes. You'll see the beautiful deities, Radha and Giridhari. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. And we have class tomorrow if you're interested also.